so there comes a time where you're sober, you end up in agreement with the government.
Yes.
You realize that no one's going to take care of the family, no one's doing anything. Yet again, because of maybe your father's name and everything else, you're targeted. You're a name of somebody they're going to slam and hit with all sorts of, time. What's going through your head at that time? You realize.
So I got out of jail in 2004. I wind up doing 8 years and 3 months. I get out of jail. I go to work. I'm working driving a truck. But I'm still waiting to get straightened out because I had 1 foot in, 1 foot out. I didn't want anybody to catch any delusions on me. I'm home, and I'm home a couple of months, and I get arrested for a murder, for my brother-in-law's murder. I get arrested for a RICO with a gambling charge and a murder, and they lock me up for a RICO. I'm get out, I'm home confinement, and nobody's helping me. Nobody's looking out for me. My father had died when I was in prison. They took everything. The mob took everything. It was a whole different world out there. Nobody was looking out for me, but I couldn't cooperate. I would pick up the phone, I would hang it up, I would pick up the phone, I'd see my father's face because he hated cooperating, and I couldn't do it. I couldn't bring myself to do it. About 8 months down the line, I'm trying to do some legal stuff, legal issues, and my co-defendant's lawyers aren't helping me. And my co-defendant, Dominic, who actually pulled the trigger, has an alibi. He had a guy in a travel agent that was giving him paperwork stating that he was in Florida the week of my brother-in-law's disappearance. So I tell him, well, what about me? He goes, oh, wait, you're on your own. I could only get papers for me. You're my co-defendant, So I had some legal thing going. So I hired this attorney, and they start doing some work for me, a mob attorney, who really liked my father and I. We were friends, very close with them. And they call me up and they tell me, listen, your co-defendants are going to throw you under the bus. They're not helping me with what I need. You need to call the government. I said, what are you, crazy? How could I can't do that. They said, listen, you need to call the government because they're going to throw you under the bus. Now at this point, I'm done. I don't want to, I don't want to go to jail. I tried to actually get a plea before that. I told the lawyers, get me 10 years. I'll take a plea right now. No, we're not pleading out. Yeah, because you want to throw me under the bus and you want your co-defendant, because I was the last person with him. I picked him up and he disappeared.
Right.
So the next morning I woke up. I decided that night, that's it. I'm done. I took the card. For some reason, this guy had just died. This guy, Jerry Conrad, I told you about. He was an agent. For some reason, he gave me his card, and I never kept cards. But for some reason, I kept this guy's card. So I took the card, and I gave the card to my wife, Valerie. I couldn't call. I go, listen, when you go to work today in Ridgewood, call this number, tell this guy to come see me. And she went to work, and she called the agents, and they came to my house, and I proffered. The proffer.
There you go.
And that was the first time I proffered. They asked me one question, if I murdered my brother-in-law, if I committed, and I said yes, and that was it. They stopped. They didn't ask me anything else. They said, okay, you need to get an attorney. They gave me a paper with 10 names on it because not everybody wants to deal with cooperators. So they gave me a list with 10 names on it, and I knew one of the attorneys, and I said, okay, I'll retain him. And they asked me if I needed money, and I said yes. The next day they brought me back like $2,500 because I couldn't pay my mortgage or nothing. The next day they brought me, I believe, $2,500 in cash. I took the cash. I made an arrangements to meet with this lawyer. I retained the lawyer, and then I profited. The next time I profited was they rented a suite in the Waldorf in Manhattan, and I went up to the Waldorf with this attorney, Michael Gold, and they were all in there, all the U.S. attorneys and FBI agents. I mean, there must have been 20 of them up there. And the first words out of their mouth was about murders, and then the second thing out of their mouths was about corrupt police officers, NYPD, not agents. What do you know about the NYPD? Who was on the take? Because my father had a guy named Sarial with him, and he had big ins with the police department and with Santucci's office. Big ins with them, and they had corrupt judges with that Judge Brenner that got arrested that was taking bribes. So this guy Sarial was really plugged in with the NYPD, and he was on record with my own man and Tony Lee. They had the Gold Store together with him, so they were interested in all that, and I was there all day, and that was the beginning. And they kept me in the street for a couple of months, and then they pulled me off the street, and I went away, and I, went to safe houses.
And Tony Lee and your dad had passed away.
I would have never cooperated. It's funny because, it took me a year to make that decision, and sometimes it still bothers me, but I wanted out of that life. But I know, and anybody that really knows me, if my father was alive, I would have never done it. First of all, if my father was alive, I would have had somebody looking out for me. It would have been a different scenario. They wouldn't have been able to get away with what they were trying to get away with. So I would have never cooperated.
Well, the murder is something, too, that, it had to be done. If you think about it in the organization you're in, the life you're in, it had to be done.
Yeah.
Your dad wanted it done. If you said no.
And John Gotti okayed it,
Right.
because, what are you going to do? If they would have done it with me or without me. I mean, they were going to do it. He was going to get killed, unfortunately. It was already, Tony Lee already told me, he's the one, when I went to Tony Lee and told Tony Lee that Frankie, he did this and that, what are we going to do? Tony Lee already said we're going to clip him. So they already were going to do it.
Right.
I wish they wouldn't have involved me now, in hindsight, whatever you want to say. I wish they could have left me the fuck out of it.
Right.
You know what I mean? But they didn't, So, because I was, because they didn't know how to get him because he was dangerous. So, but they didn't have to involve me. Whether I was involved or not, it was going to happen.
Right.
Yeah.
And how is your life today?
My life today is I'm content, which I was never, when I was in the street, making all the money, I was never content. It was always about the next scheme, the next crime, the next this, the next that, the next bid. I was never content. Now, I'm content. I have a nice, comfortable life. Unfortunately, I feel bad for my sister and my niece. Someday I hope they could forgive me, but my life is good. I help people. I work in treatment. I became a counselor. I put myself back in school. At 60 years old, I went back to school. I became a counselor. I work in treatment. I'm doing all this stuff. I got a podcast, Reform Gangsters, and I'm content now. I sit on my couch. I drink. I don't have to worry about getting arrested. I don't have to worry about going to jail. I don't have to worry about hurting anybody. I'm not robbing nobody. I feel content, and I never felt that way before.
Right. Well, I want to end this on, there's something that I always found funny is mob nicknames. I mean, so I didn't, there's so many out there, but I just picked Gambino names.
Okay.
And some of them are obvious, some aren't, but I'm going to say a name, and maybe you could tell me how they got the nickname and just a one-liner about the guy or whatever. So we'll start off with Ronnie One-Arm Trucchio.
Okay, so Ronnie One-Arm was a very good, very, very, very good friend of mine. So Ronnie, at a young age, got hit by a car, and he was a bad kid, and he never went for therapy, and his arm never formed, so his arm is disfigured. So of course we named him Ronnie One-Arm, but Ronnie One-Arm always had a gun on him. And Ronnie One-Arm used to play basketball with us with one arm, and he was pretty good.
Wow.
So, and he hit hard, and his right arm is the bad arm. So yeah, Ronnie One-Arm was a dangerous guy. But always had a gun on him.
All right. Angelo Quack Quack Ruggiano.
So Angelo Quack Quack he waddled. When he walked, he waddled like a duck, so they called him. A lot of people think it's because of the tapes, but it's not because of the tapes. When I met him when I was a kid, years and years and years before them tapes were made, he was Angelo Quack Quack, and it's because he waddles like a duck.
He was a big talker, though, right?
Yeah,
Wasn't
big talker, but his feet were not pigeon-toed, it's like this, and he waddled when he walked.
All right. Anthony Tony Bagels Caveza. Do you know him?
I don't know him, but I know the reason why they called him Tony Bagels is because he had potholes in his face, and it looked like a bagel.
All right. That's a good one. All right. Johnny Bandana Brancaccio.
Oh, I know Johnny Bandana well. He just always wore bandanas on his head, always. He was from Jamaica Avenue, Johnny Bandana. I'm surprised you know of Johnny Bandana.
All right.
The last time I saw him, we were in Attica together.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Is he in or out? Or do you know?
I don't know. He's a bad egg.
Serious dude?
Yeah, but we were in Attica together in 1998, him and I.
All right. I don't know why I picked this one. Frank Meatball Bellatoni.
I don't know him.
All right. Vincenzo Vinny Car Wash for Jero.
He owned a car wash.
Where was the car wash?
I think it was on Rockaway Boulevard.
Okay.
It might have been on Rockaway Boulevard, but I know he owned car washes.
There was one on Woodhaven Boulevard
Yeah.
that it was mobbed up.
Yeah,
and
that was on Woodhaven up by Sutter Avenue, up on Cross Bay, by Smitty's, by the hot dog wagon.
This one would have been between, let's say, Jamaica Avenue
Oh,
and
that's-
Queens
that- oh, that's
Boulevard,
the other
like
way, yeah.
halfway point,
Yeah,
maybe.
Yeah, could be. That could have been his.
That's a good business to have when you want to hide cash, right?
Yeah.
All right, who else we got here? We got Chris Berger Reynolds.
I don't
Never
know
heard of him. How about Mikey Scars de
Mikey Scars,
Leonardo?
I know. Yeah, he got bit by a dog in the face.
Okay.
That's why they call him Mikey Scars.
Yeah, and his brother got killed by Greg Scarpa.
Yeah, Greg Scott. But there, there's Jackie the actor, good-looking Jack, Nicky Nose. I mean,
I think I got-
Andy. Yeah.
We only got a few left. How
All right.
about Tommy Sneakers Cacciapoli?
Always, he's a nice guy. Tommy Sneakers. I know him since I'm a kid. He always wore sneakers, jogging suits with sneakers.
All right. Robert Bobby the Jew Epifaria. Did you know Bobby the Jew?
Do I know Bobby the Jew? Bobby the Jew. Now, he's not Jewish. He's Italian, and he's a made guy. Bobby the Jew, I was in jail with Bobby the Jew in 91.
Right.
He was the guy that came out to the yard and told me Sammy Gravano flipped.
Wow.
We used to walk the yard, him and I, every night, me and Bobby the Jew, because I knew him from Manhattan. He was with Joe Butch. And we would walk the yard every night. And one night he's late, and I'm going, where is this guy? Right? Finally, he comes out to the yard, and he goes, I just got off the phone. You're never going. That guy, we used to call John Gotti, that guy, he goes, that guy's co-defendant flipped. And I went, who, Frankie? I thought it was Frankie Loke. He said, no, Sammy.
Wow.
I said, Sammy, Bobby the Jew. He's the one that told me that.
All right. This guy's got a few. Dominic Cefalo, Italian Dom, Dom from 18th Avenue,
Yeah.
and the Greaseball. I guess the Greaseball was that a Gotti thing?
Might have been, but I know him as the Italian Dom. I know him.
Italian
He's
Dom.
quiet. Yeah. He has a bakery. I think he's a baker too. Yeah, but he's the boss now, from what I understand.
Yeah, I think
John,
Dom-
he was one of the last guys that John Gotti made when John Gotti was in the street. He was one of the last. He might have been in the last batch of guys that John Gotti actually performed the ceremony when they got made. Dom.
I think Gotti used to call him Greaseball because he was
probably.
Sicilian or something.
Yeah, he's from Italy. Yeah.
All right, Vinny Hot Di Congilio. Vinny Hot.
All right, so that's an inherited nickname.
Right.
So his uncle Freddie Hot
Freddie Hot,
was
right.
actually on the murder with us with my brother-in-law. He was my father's gumbada. My father baptized his so he was the original Hot.
All right.
And him and his brother were the original Hots, Freddie Hot, and that's his nephew. So the nephew inherited, Vinny Hot inherited the name from Freddie Hot.
All right, John Jackie Nose D'Amico.
Well, that's self-explanatory. He just passed away, but he did have a big nose. But a nice guy, sharp dresser,
Right.
very manicured, very debonair.
I was just going to say Dominic Skinny Dom Pizzoni.
Yeah, he's still skinny.
All right. Bartolomeo Bobby Glasses Vernace.
Yeah, that's the Shamrock Murders. He had big glasses he used to wear all the time, like Bonnie Google glasses.
All right, and a guy you talk about a lot, Carmine Fatico, Charlie Wagons.
Charlie
How'd you get
Wagons.
that? Was he used to?
You know how he was a tattoo artist, actually. Not many people know. So years ago on Coney Island, that's where everybody used to go back in the day for tattoos. And he had a tattoo wagon, and he used to give.
Oh, wow.
He was before he became a made guy. He was a tattoo artist, and
Wow.
and that's how he got the name Charlie Wagons from his tattoo wagon.
All right. Well, I don't think
He's
I've
the
ever
guy-
heard that before.
Yeah,
so
no, he was the guy. Well, how did you hear he got his name?
no, somebody said because he used to do hijacking with trucks, wagons, or something like that.
No.
That was the analogy.
He was the guy that straightened out my father and John Gotti. He proposed both of them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he proposed my father in 53, and then later on in the 70s, he proposed John.
Did you ever have a nickname?
Just Rouge, they call me. But we gave girls nicknames too, We had some girls nicknames too, like Debbie Do Nothing, because, she didn't do nothing. Fran the Man, we had Crazy Row, we gave girls nicknames
Sure.
too. It wasn't only guys. Yeah. Yeah. But
All right. Well, listen, it's. I think you're one of the few guys out there that really understands what redemption is, really understands what it is, to turn your life around, embrace a new life, And, we can have a few laughs about stuff, whatever, but you're without a doubt a gentleman and somebody who realizes that, there is a better life, and you got there. And I think the struggles sometimes make us better people at the end.
Yes, without a doubt.
So God bless, and thank you so much for coming
Oh, it was
out.
my pleasure.
And we're going to go out to the shrine tonight in
shrine,
Tulsa,
right,
and
yes.
And tell this story one more time, and maybe we could think of some more funny names. But
Yes.
thank you so much for coming out.
It's
I
my
appreciate
pleasure.
you.
Thanks for having me.
All right, brother. And I think that's it. We'll see you the next time.
Young player. Kill. Murder.